Discover Israel's divine destiny. 12 sacred truths revealed in God's transforming plan. In the third year of Jehoiakim, the Israelites labored in the land of Egypt, their backs burdened under the oppressive weight of Pharaoh's edicts. For generations, they had toiled within the walls of Goshen, constructing monuments and cities, their sweat mingling with the dirt of the earth. Among them walked Moses, a Hebrew shaped by Egyptian hands, raised within the opulence of the palace, yet his spirit was stitched with the fabric of his ancestors who had cried out for deliverance. As day surrendered to twilight, casting a golden hue across the fields, Moses stole away from the heavy clamor of the quarry. His heart, a fierce knot of anguish, stirred with the yearning for the freedom of his people, a quiet space in his thoughts where hope lingered, just beyond his grasp. The sun's descent brought the familiar comfort of shadows, but it also whispered an ache that wounded deeper than his desire for peace. Then he sought a sight that beckoned him with divine mystery. A bush engulfed in flames, yet it did not burn. Engulfed in wonder, he stepped closer, his pulse quickening as the air crackled with the weight of unuttered promises. Suddenly, a voice pierced the sacred hush. "Moses, Moses!" He fell to his knees, astonished. "Do not come any closer," God commanded, the authority of heaven lacing every word. "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." Each syllable resonated within Moses, igniting a sense of purpose he had never envisioned. God continued, revealing the deep anguish felt for the oppressed, saying, "I have seen the suffering of my people, and I have come down to rescue them." Torn between terror and faith, Moses listened, grasping the enormity of what lay ahead. Could he be the one to lead them to freedom? The burning bush was not just a miraculous sign. It was the heart of God unfolding a divine plan. As Moses wrestled with doubt, a whirlwind of plagues surged within Egypt. He returned to Pharaoh, demand after demand echoing against hardened walls, but the king's heart remained unmoved. The Nile ran red with blood, frogs sprang forth in pestilence, and locusts enveloped the sky. Each plague bore witness to the might of God. Yet Pharaoh's obstinacy intensified his oppression of the Israelites. Fear mingled with hope among the Hebrew people, their cries for deliverance lifting to heaven, intertwining with the very essence of their existence. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful stories from Scripture. Hit the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share it with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed by how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Then, in the darkest night, laden with the weight of the impending final plague, God offered hope through the familiar blood of the Lamb, marking their doorposts as a sign of protection against judgment. They gathered in anxious anticipation, whispering the sacred promises of their forefathers, clutching their fate close to their hearts. As the cries of anguish erupted across Egypt, a holy stillness enveloped the houses of the Israelites, waiting for the dawn of their liberation. But with freedom's promise lies an unanswered question. A wilderness lies ahead, shrouded in uncertainty as the covenant unfolds. Would they trust the God who had brought them thus far? What mysteries awaited them beyond the chains of bondage and into the arms of destiny? When the sun broke upon the horizon, shattering the darkness of the night, a great cry erupted throughout Egypt. The air was thick with dread, for the final plague had come to fruition. The firstborn of every household, from the throne of Pharaoh to the humble servant, lay lifeless, and the wails echoed like thunder across the land. Pharaoh's heart, already hardened by the signs and wonders of God, trembled in the face of this calamity. In that fateful hour, he summoned Moses and Aaron, his voice trembling. "Rise, go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve the Lord, as you have said." The command burst forth like a floodgate opening, revealing the path to liberation. With urgency, Moses rallied the Israelites, whispering words of both courage and God's faithfulness. Gather your families, gather your flocks. The Lord has delivered us. He has called us to step forth into freedom. The news spread swiftly, igniting hope within the hearts of those who had languished in despair. The Egyptians, now fearful and desperate, encouraged the Hebrews to leave, returning to them what had been taken: silver and gold. Treasures of Egypt poured into their hands, reflective of the unearned grace bestowed upon them. As the Israelites moved into the night, a pillar of cloud led them, obscuring their way to the Red Sea, the path that would soon become a sanctuary of deliverance. Each step resonated with the rhythm of newfound faith, as mothers clutched their children tightly, and fathers vowed to protect and lead their families into the unknown. Yet even as they journeyed, doubt skulked among them. What shall we eat? One lamented. What shall we drink? Another cried. God heard their whispered fears. His heart was tender toward his chosen. Thus he instructed Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. In the wilderness, as provisions dwindled, the miraculous manna would fall like dew, a testament of God's eternal provision. Morning after morning, the people would gather, each morsel a manifestation of his faithfulness. And amid the harsh landscape, their trust in him would be both tested and refined. As they approached the sea, the low rumble of hooves and the harsh clang of swords surged behind them. Pharaoh, with a hardened heart, had pursued them in a fury. Fear gripped the Israelites, and voices once filled with hope now trembled with despair. Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you have taken us to die in the wilderness? They railed against Moses, a storm of doubt unleashed. But Moses, steeling himself against their fears, declared, Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. He raised his voice to the heavens, beseeching God's intervention as the waves crashed against the shore like the echo of a promise tailored in the heart of creation itself. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. With trembling faith, Moses obeyed. The waters parted, revealing a dry path. The miraculous deliverance laid before them like a gateway to their destiny. As the Israelites stepped into the valley of the sea, their hearts soared, fortified by the trust that God was with them. Yet the mystery of their journey remained. What awaited them on the other side? It was not only freedom, but the forging of a people, a covenant destined to shape the very fabric of history. As God's plans unfolded, so did the promise of a land flowing with milk and honey, whispered within the winds of uncertainty. Thus, what shadows and trials awaited the cradle of faith that had begun? Would they embrace the covenant call, or would fear beckon them back into bondage? The dawn of their destiny lingered just beyond the waters, for God's sovereign plan was only beginning to reveal its grandeur. As the Israelites traversed the dry path through the heart of the sea, the air was thick with divine awe. The waters loomed like mighty walls, a testament to the power of God's word. They walked with bated breath, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and expectation. For as they moved forward, they beheld the fragments of their past behind them, the darkness of Egypt giving way to the dawning of a new identity. With every step, the waters shimmered, reflecting the flickering lights of the torches carried by the faithful. It was at that moment, in the midst of the miraculous, that they glimpsed the true purpose of their exodus, a journey not just to escape, but to enter into the light of God's covenant, a nation set apart unto him. Do not forget, Moses called out, his voice rising above the sounds of rushing waters and mingled breaths. The Lord has made a way where there seemed to be none. Hold fast to his promises, for he has brought us forth to worship him in spirit and in truth. The hearts of the people began to ignite with seeds of hope, and they sang praises unto the Lord, declaring his wondrous deeds. With every chant, their voices united in a chorus, a divine symphony that echoed through the silence of the sea, a call to fidelity and remembrance, But as dawn crested the horizon, casting golden hues across their path, the sound of pursuit echoed once again in the distance. Pharaoh had set his heart like flint, driven by the remnants of pride and vengeance. The clouds swirled ominously overhead, a dark harbinger of the clash that loomed ahead. "Look, the Egyptians come!" The murmurs spread like wildfire among the ranks of the chosen. Fear stirred once again, threatening to douse the flame of faith that had begun to kindle. Moses turned to the people with resolute strength. "Fear not. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace." His voice rang out, firm and unwavering, winding through the hearts of the Israelites like a thread of gold. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand once more over the sea." Obedience surged through Moses as he lifted his staff, and as he invoked the command of the Almighty, the waters began to return as if obeying a divine edict. The rushing tide cascaded with a fearsome torrent, swallowing up the pursuing chariots as they thundered into the pathway. That a great wonder unfolded, an unmistakable sign of God's might. Those who had fled in fear now witnessed the deliverance of the Lord. In that moment, they not only saw the tumultuous waters reclaiming their own, but beheld the hand of God assuring their freedom. The cries of despair turned to shouts of triumph. For the Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. Exodus 15, verse 3. As the final echoes of their enemies were swallowed by the depths, a deep calm fell over the land. The Israelites stood on the shore, gazing at the foam-capped waves that had forged their deliverance. They stood united, a people reborn, transformed by the depths of their trials, stitched together by the faithfulness of their God. But just as joy began to rise, a whisper lingered in the hearts of the people. What lay ahead in this wilderness? The path was indeed about to unfold with new trials, but within it would reveal greater truths, a journey toward holiness, a nation to be formed, a covenant to be honored. For God had spoken to Moses once more, "Consecrate to me every firstborn, for they are mine." The echo of this sacred command loomed like the promise of destiny, yet to be fully understood. Thus, as the people stepped into the brilliance of a new dawn, they clutched their remembrance of the Exodus not merely as an escape, but as the beginning of an eternal covenant, a solemn call to be his beloved, set apart for the glories that awaited. God's sovereign plan was unfurling like the skies above, inviting them to discover the abundant truths that would redefine their existence. Then Moses led the people onward, their hearts still echoing with the song of deliverance. The shore of the Red Sea now lay behind them, marked by the hand of God. Yet what lay before them was a vast wilderness, stretching endlessly with the breath of uncertainty. "Let us prepare our hearts," Moses declared, "for the Lord has shown us his power, but he shall test us in this barren land. Remember what he has done, for the very memory of our deliverance shall be our strength." As they journeyed deeper into the wilderness, the sun scorched the ground beneath their feet, and the desolation around them seemed to mock their cries for sustenance. Murmurs began to rise among the Israelites. "Is it to die in this wilderness that you have brought us, Moses? Was there no grave in Egypt that we might be buried there?" Their voices trembled, words tinged with despair. Moses, feeling the weight of their reproach, fell upon his face before the Lord. "O Lord, what shall I do with this people? They are on the brink of rebellion." But the Lord responded, unveiling the depths of his providence. "Behold, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not." Exodus 16, verse 4. With renewed assurance, Moses relayed the promise to the people, who watched in wide-eyed wonder. "In the morning, you shall see the glory of the Lord, for he hears your murmurings against him." As the dawn unfurled its golden rays, a thin layer of dew covered the ground like a divine mantle. When the dew lifted, a fine flake lay scattered like frost upon the earth. The people beheld it and exclaimed, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. Moses answered them, "It is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat." With joy surpassing their previous fears, they gathered the manna, understanding that every morsel was a token of God's faithfulness. Each day they collected it, learning to trust anew. Thereby their daily sustenance became a hymn of reliance upon the Almighty. Yet within their hearts lingered an unrest, a yearning for more than mere bread. When will we drink? When will we feast? Their cry echoed through the camp once more, and again they raised their complaints against Moses and Aaron. In sorrow, Moses returned to the Lord. What shall I do with this people? They're almost ready to stone me. The Lord, in his compassion, instructed him, Take with you the elders of Israel and go to the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water shall come forth that the people may drink. Exodus 17 verses 5-6. Hence, Moses obeyed, striking the rock in the sight of the elders. Water gushed forth in a miraculous flow, quenching the thirst of a people who had forgotten the wonders of their deliverance. In that moment, they were reminded that every trial, every moment of doubt, was a stepping stone in their learning to depend wholly on the Lord. As they journeyed forth, they encountered the Amalekites who came to wage war against them. The situation felt dire, yet the Lord instructed Moses regarding how they would prevail. Lift your staff and stand upon the hill, said God. Whenever Moses held up his hands, Israel prevailed, but when he lowered them, Amalek would triumph. Amidst the battle, Aaron and Hur stood beside Moses, supporting his weary hands until the victory was sealed and the Israelites emerged triumphant. Then the Lord said to Moses, Write this as a memorial in a book and recite it in the ears of Joshua, that I will utterly blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Exodus 17, verse 14. In this wilderness, marked by trials, Israel learned the sacred truths of reliance, obedience, and remembrance. For in their journey, they glimpsed the greater plan of God, a nation being forged through fire and faith. And as they prepared to move onward into the unknown, a whisper ignited their hearts. What awaited them was more than mere survival. For the Lord God had a divine destiny crafted in the heavens, and his providential grace would guide them toward the promised land. The time would come when all his promises would unfold in glory, revealing the eternal covenant that would echo through generations. As the Israelites continued their journey through the wilderness, the weight of their strides mirrored the burden of their hearts. Each step was marked by uncertainty, and the memory of their hunger and thirst pressed upon them. Yet in the midst of their trials, the Lord had not left them alone. Gather, O Israel, Moses called out into the morning light, for the Lord our God is among us, and he shall show us the path we must take. With these words, he prompted the people to congregate and listen intently. The Spirit of the Almighty was at work, stirring faith within the hearts of the weary. Then the Lord spoke again to Moses, I shall establish a covenant with you, a holy law that shall guide you in every step. With reverence, Moses ascended the mountain to receive the commandments from God, who enveloped him in a cloud of majesty. This encounter with the divine breathed life into the lifeless hearts of the people below, whose faith was trembling like flame in the wind. As Moses prepared to descend, he carried with him the words inscribed by the finger of God. You shall have no other gods before me, he would declare, setting forth the foundation of a nation called to worship the one who brought them out of bondage. The laws were not mere commands, but the heartbeat of a covenantal relationship with their Creator. Upon seeing Moses, the people approached him with both awe and fear. Moses, we cannot ascend the mountain, for the glory of the Lord shines too brightly for us, they cried. Yet, emboldened by divine assurance, Moses reminded them, Fear not, for God has come to test you, that his fear may be before you, that you may not sin. Exodus 20 verse 20. Then the Israelites went to their tents, ruminating on the Lord's teachings and the solemn promises made. Day after day, they came to learn and understand the significance of their covenant. Their march through the wilderness became a path of sanctification, each moment unveiling the sacred truth that they were being fashioned into a holy people set apart for God. But the challenges did not cease, and shortly thereafter, they faced greater trials. Is it possible that we shall ever see the land flowing with milk and honey? They wondered aloud, testing their resolve and loyalty. The voices of dissent rose again amongst them, questioning the goodness of the Lord as their hearts grew weary. In a moment of immense need, Moses sought the counsel of the Lord. What shall I say to these people? For they are weary of the journey. The voice of God came clearly in response. I shall provide for you. The land is indeed ahead, and I am with you. Send men to scout the land that I will give you, and let their report strengthen your faith. Numbers 13:2. Under divine instruction, Moses sent 12 men, one from each tribe, to explore the promised land. The anticipation swelled, and the people held their breath, wondering what news would arrive. For deep within their souls, they yearned for the land promised to their forefathers, a land where they could rest and worship freely without fear. Days turned into weeks as the spies traversed the terrain of Canaan, gathering fruit and recounting the richness found therein. When at last they returned, bearing evidence of the land's bountiful harvest, there was a moment of divine revelation. Truly the land flows with milk and honey, they proclaimed, but the people are strong and the cities fortified. Fear gripped the hearts of the 10 spies who spoke of giants in the land, urging the Israelites to turn back to Egypt. But Caleb and Joshua stood firm against the tide, echoing the truths of God as promise. We are well able to overcome it, they cried. And yet, the cry of dissent consumed the camp as despair took root once more. As the Lord observed the people's rebellion and lack of faith, his heart grieved deeply. Will you not trust in my promises? He asked, his voice a gentle whisper amidst their tumult. Little did they know that the very struggle that surrounded them was part of a grander narrative, revealing God's faithfulness despite their shortcomings. Thus, the wilderness journey would continue, and God's sovereign hand would guide them through valleys of fear and mountains of hope. The sacred destiny he had decreed for them was still in motion, a promise ready to awaken into fulfillment. And as they wandered in uncertainty, a question lingered in the shadows. What more would God reveal in the unfolding pages of their divine story, as his covenant love persevered with a people chosen for glory? And it came to pass that the voices of the 10 spies echoed through the camp, filling the hearts of the Israelites with dread. They wept bitterly, saying, Would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would that we had died in this wilderness. Why has the Lord brought us to this land, to fall by the sword? Our wives and children will become prey. Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt? Their words were steeped in fear and despair, a testament to their fragile faith. Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before the assembly of the Israelites, yearning for the people to understand the gravity of their rebellion. The land we explored is exceedingly good. Caleb spoke boldly. If the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land flowing with milk and honey. His voice rang with unwavering certainty, urging the people to redirect their focus to the encompassing promise of God. But the lament of the multitude persisted, and they sought to stone Moses and Aaron. In that moment of mounting rage, the glory of the Lord appeared in the tent of meeting, a radiant light, filling the space with divine presence. How long will this people despise me? The Lord inquired, his voice a thunderous proclamation that silenced the murmurs of rebellion. And how long will they not believe in me, despite all the signs that I have done among them? The fear of God fell upon the people, and they felt the weight of their transgressions. The Lord purposed to strike them with a pestilence, to disinherit them and raise up a greater nation. But Moses interceded on their behalf, pleading, O Lord, the Egyptians will hear of it, for you brought this people up by your mighty power. What will become of your name among the nations? He appealed to God's mercy and renown, and the Lord relented of the harm he had spoken to do. Yet as I live, the Lord declared, every one of you who has seen my glory and my signs, and has tested me these 10 times, shall not see the land that I swore to give your fathers. A solemn decree was pronounced, marking a day of reckoning for the people. Your children shall be shepherds in the wilderness for 40 years until the last of this generation falls, until your carcasses lie in the wilderness. Among the multitude, a hush fell as they contemplated the consequence of their disbelief. Yet the Lord spoke again, a thread of mercy woven into his judgment. But Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh shall receive a land they have spied, for they hold a different spirit and follow me fully. With heavy hearts, the people turned back from the promise. Yet Joshua and Caleb stood resolute, emboldened by faith that could not be extinguished. In the midst of despair, this remnant held onto the divine assurance, destined to witness the unfolding of God's glorious plan. As the days turned, the lessons of faith and trust were etched into the lives of those wandering in the wilderness. The bitter words of dissent transformed into echoes of teachings, and the lessons of covenant love and divine strength became more vivid. The path ahead, though shrouded in uncertainty, carried the foundation of a promised hope. In the stillness of longing and the throes of disappointment, the Israelites would learn that even in their failures, God was still present, shaping them into a people of praise. With every step upon the rocky ground of their wilderness, unyielding faith would stir within their hearts a faith destined to usher them into providential victory. And thus, the sacred saga of a chosen people continued. For, in the waiting, the fullness of God's sovereign plan lay yet to be unveiled. What more did the Lord prepare for his people, and how would their hearts be molded through trials in the wilderness? The echoes of divine promise hung heavily in the air, waiting to be discovered in the chapters yet to come. And it came to pass that the children of Israel journeyed in the wilderness, their hearts weighed down by the burden of their disobedience. 40 years loomed before them, a time appointed by the Lord for their wandering. Yet in that desolation were seeds of renewal being sown. With each day, the sun rose over the encampment, illuminating the face of Moses as he ascended the mountain to commune with God. There, in the quiet of the heights, he sought the face of the Almighty, who spoke to him, saying, I have heard the cries of my people, and their hearts are hardened. Yet I will bring forth water from the rock to sustain them, and manna shall rain down daily from heaven, that they may know I am their provider. And so it was that Moses returned to the people, bearing the word of the Lord. Hear, O Israelites, the Lord is gracious and merciful. He will provide for you. Gather daily the manna which falls from the sky, and do not hoard, lest you waste what I have set before you. Some believed and obeyed. Others, still trapped in their doubt, questioned, How shall we gather what we do not see? Is this truly the bread sent from heaven? Yet it came to pass that on the 6th day the Lord commanded, Gather twice as much, for on the Sabbath you will rest. And there was fear among the people. They wondered if the manna would last. But when they obeyed the command, they found it to be as the Lord had promised, for the bread did not spoil. Thus his faithfulness was made manifest in their midst. In the days that followed, the Lord led them to the waters of Meribah, where the people again clamored for drink. Is the Lord among us or not? They exclaimed, their voices rising in doubt. Moses cried out in anguish, turning to the Lord, who instructed him to take the staff and speak to the rock. You shall strike it, he said, and water shall flow forth. In obedience, Moses raised the staff, yet in his frustration he struck the rock, and water gushed forth abundantly. The people drank and were quenched. But the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Because you did not trust in me to uphold my holiness in the eyes of the people, you shall not lead this assembly into the land I promised them. A profound silence fell upon Moses as he grappled with his sorrow and the weight of consequence. Yet, in the midst of grief, God's mercy lingered. You shall see the land from a distance, he promised, but know that I shall raise up a leader to bring this people into their inheritance. As they wandered, the hearts of the assembly began to shift. From their trials emerged a new generation. They learned to gather daily, to cherish the gift of God's presence, and to trust in the provider. The younger ones, untainted by the fears of their forefathers, looked toward the promise as their faith began to blossom. And so the years turned time tempered by the lessons of the wilderness. The Lord preserve a remnant, stirring within them a fire of purpose and identity. They were being forged into a holy nation, a people called to proclaim his glory among the nations. And at the appointed time, the Lord moved upon the hearts of Joshua and Caleb, strengthening their resolve. They gathered the people, proclaiming, "Arise, for the Lord has given us the land. Be strong and courageous, for the battle is his, and the victory shall be ours." Thus, as the sun set on the horizon, illuminating the path before them, the divine promise hung unfulfilled, wrapped in sacred mystery. For the question echoed in the hearts of the faithful: how shall they claim what has yet been revealed, and how would God's ultimate plan for his people unfold in the land flowing with milk and honey? The air held the weight of expectation, and the story of redemption awaited its divine climax. And it came to pass that as the children of Israel wandered, the weight of their past still clung to them like a shadow. Yet in the darkness, light began to break forth as they encamped by the fertile lands of Moab. There, where the plains stretched wide and the hills rolled gently, the Lord spoke again to Moses, saying, "Gather my people, that they may listen. I will instruct them in the ways of righteousness and prepare their hearts for the land that flows with milk and honey." Moses summoned the assembly, his voice steady yet full of the gravity of his words. "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is a jealous God, who desires your hearts wholly. Do not forget the covenant he made with your fathers, nor the signs and wonders he has shown you. For as you prepare to enter the land of promise, remember that it is not by sword or might, but by the Spirit of the Lord that you shall prevail." As they listened, a hush fell over the crowd, the echoes of past rebellions mingling with a sense of hope. "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul," Moses continued, "and teach these commandments diligently to your children, when you sit in your house and when you walk by the way." In that moment, the hearts of the young grew emboldened, for they recognized the weight of their future. Among them, a young woman named Miriam rose, her spirit aglow with vision, and spoke boldly, "We shall not shrink back. We shall take hold of the promise, for our God is with us." With renewed fervor, the people began to mend their ways, casting off the chains of doubt. They gathered the manna with gratitude, offering it to one another, sharing with the widows and the orphans, lest any be left in want. The Spirit of God moved among them, and they were changed. Their unity was a testament to their reliance on the Almighty. Yet, even as hearts turned and hope soared, there lingered among them whispers of fear. Will we truly take the land? Are we strong enough? Some looked upon the fortified cities and the mighty warriors of Canaan with trepidation. So Moses called forth the elders. "Send men to spy the land," he declared, "that we may know of the good and the evil that awaits us." And so they sent 12 men, one from each tribe, to traverse the territories of Canaan. After 40 days, they returned, burdened with clusters of grapes, so heavy that 2 men bore them on a staff. "Truly, the land is good," they reported, "but it is filled with giants, and we are but grasshoppers in their sight." At these words, despair seeped into the hearts of many. Yet Caleb and Joshua stood firm. "We can take it. The Lord is with us," they proclaimed, their voices rising above the murmur of doubt. "Do not rebel against the Lord. Do not fear the inhabitants of the land. Their protection is gone from them, and the Lord is with us." But the congregation wavered, afraid of the unknown, and they lifted their voices in lamentation. "Oh, that we had died in the wilderness! Why has the Lord brought us here to fall by the sword?" Their cries rose to heaven, and the presence of the Lord descended upon the tabernacle, fierce as a storm. Then the Lord said to Moses, "How long will this people despise me? I have shown them miracles, and yet they doubt my promise." The ground trembled as the people trembled in fear. The Lord's anger was kindled, but even in his wrath, the breath of mercy remained. "Moses, I will make your descendants a great nation," he declared. Yet Moses interceded for the people, pleading for their lives, reminding the Lord of his covenant and faithfulness. "Forgive them, O Lord," he cried, "for your name is at stake among the nations." And so God relented, saying, "I have pardoned them according to your word, but as surely as I live, all those who have seen my glory and yet defied my promise shall not enter my rest. Their children will inherit the land." Thus, the promise of a greater hope emerged amidst the sorrow, for a new generation was being forged, filled with a fierce faith, ready to reclaim the inheritance set before them. For the moment had come when the fullness of time would unveil God's sovereign plan, whispering to those who had ears to hear on the morrow, "Prepare your hearts, for a new era will dawn, and great shall be the wonders I will show among you." And it came to pass on the morrow, as the sun broke over the hills of Moab, that the people gathered once more before the tent of meeting. The air was thick with anticipation, for the words of the Lord had stirred their spirits, igniting a flame of hope amidst their earlier despair. Moses arose, his face aglow with the presence of God, and he spoke, saying, "Behold, the Lord our God is preparing a way for us. We shall arise and go forth, for his promise is our banner." The assembly trembled not in fear, but in awe, their hearts beating in unison as they recognized the weight of the moment. Let us remember, Moses proclaimed, how the Lord delivered us from the hand of Pharaoh, how he parted the sea before us and provided manna from heaven. His faithfulness endures throughout all generations. Today, we must choose to believe that the giants we face are but a shadow compared to the power of our God. Then, Caleb and Joshua stepped forward, their arms raised in defiance against the murmurs of doubt. "We are able to overcome," they shouted, their voices echoing like thunder across the plains. "Let your fear be silenced by the truth of his promise. For the land is exceedingly good, and the Lord delights in giving it to us." As they spoke, a hush fell over the multitude. The children of Israel, with hearts still bruised from their past, began to ponder the possibilities before them. Yet, the whispers of rebellion and fear slithered through the crowd, stirring their imaginations of catastrophe. Could we truly conquer? Wondered some. Are we not but wandering sheep? Moses, discerning the unrest, turned towards the tribes, saying, "The Lord has commanded us, and he shall go before us. Therefore, lift your eyes to him, for he is our strength and salvation." It is written, "When the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift a standard against him." Isaiah 59, verse 19. At this, a wave of conviction surged amongst them, igniting a spark of courage. "Let us remember the Lord's covenant," Miriam cried, her voice resounding in a melody of faith. "We shall declare his glory, for his promises are everlasting." And as the day unfolded, the elders of each tribe came forth to assemble their children and families, teaching them diligently the words of the Lord. They etched the commandments on their hearts as they prepared to take possession of the land that lay ahead. Moses then declared a solemn assembly, anointing the chosen leaders from each tribe to guide the people. "These shall stand firm in the face of adversity and lead by faith," he instructed, the gravity of his words weighing upon them. "For the Lord will fight for you, and you will hold your peace." Moreover, the tent of meeting became a beacon, radiant with the presence of God. The glory of the Lord enveloped the place, brighter than the sun at midday, instilling a reverence that silenced even the most hardened hearts. The people sensed that something monumental was approaching, a divine culmination of their wilderness sojourn. Yet, hidden within the tapestry of their unfolding story, God's sovereign plan continued to unfurl. As the Israelites prepared to embark upon this promised path, a whisper of destiny echoed through the land, unnoticed by many. The Lord had set in motion a greater purpose, one intertwined with the hearts and futures of the nations. "Prepare your hearts, O Israel," the Lord impressed upon them. "For I am about to reveal my hand among you, a plan that reaches beyond the borders of Canaan, stretching forth into the days of fulfillment and glory." And it came to pass that the dawn of their new journey arose within the hearts of the people, fresh with determination. They gazed upon the vast land of Canaan that lay before them, its hills and valleys filled with promise, yet darkened by the shadows of fierce inhabitants. The air hummed with anticipation as Moses summoned the assembly once more, calling for unity under the banner of divine hope. Today, he proclaimed, "We stand at the edge of our destiny. The Lord has given us a land flowing with milk and honey, a place where we shall live in freedom, worship our God, and be a light among the nations." Moses' words stirred within them the echoes of deliverance. They remembered the cries of anguish in Egypt, the miraculous signs, the sweet taste of freedom won through struggle. Yet, within the multitude, the murmurs of doubt still weaved through their hearts. How shall we take the cities fortified against us? Some questioned, their eyes cast toward the horizon. But Caleb stood firm, spirit ablaze with fervor. He turned to the people, his voice resolute. "If the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into this land. We can conquer, for he is with us." The elders of each tribe nodded, their resolve kindled by Caleb's courage. Yet fear whispered still, causing hesitation. Moses, sensing the turmoil, reminded them of their covenant of the God who had led them by a pillar of fire and cloud, whose mighty hand had parted the Red Sea. "Look back upon his faithfulness," he urged. "He has brought us thus far, and he will not forsake us now." And so they prepared to march toward the promised land. Yet such decisions bore heavy consequences, for within the hearts of the Israelites lingered the sins of the past, a tendency to forget the greatness of their God, a rebellion ripe for revival or ruin. As the people advanced, the Lord commanded Joshua to be strong and courageous, instructing him to give the order to cross the Jordan River. "For the waters shall part," said God, "just as they did at the Red Sea. In this miracle, show my glory among the nations." The anticipation grew heavy in the air, binding their hearts to hope, while Joshua rallied the people. "Prepare yourselves, for we cross in 3 days," he declared, igniting a flame among them. However, a lingering fear still clung to some hearts, questioning the Lord's directives. On the morrow, as they drew near to the banks of the Jordan, they beheld the rushing waters that reflected the blinding sun. The river swelled, representing a barrier that loomed larger than life. Will he truly part these waters for us? They wondered. Yet the Lord spoke to Joshua, "Command the priests bearing the Ark of the Covenant to step into the waters." Without hesitation, Joshua obeyed, instructing the priests to take that first step into the torrent. As their feet touched the water, the current halted and the waters parted, creating a dry path for all of Israel to walk across the riverbed. Amazement filled the hearts of the Israelites as they stepped upon the dry ground, crossing into their divine inheritance with assurance. They witnessed the miracle that their ancestors had longed for, a covenant reestablished beneath the arch of heaven, marked by the hand of providence. As the last of their numbers crossed, Joshua instructed 12 men, one from each tribe, to gather stones from the riverbed. "Create a memorial," he said, "that generation shall remember how the Lord brought us here." And so they raised the stones, a testament to God's unfailing love, a reminder of the miraculous journey mapped out through suffering and victory. Yet even as jubilant songs filled the air, the Lord spoke again. "This day I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you," declaring liberation from their past. But shadows loomed still, and uncertainty lingered about living in the promise they had received, for within the land awaited fortified cities and battles yet to be fought. Fear threatened to consume them, a reminder of their prior rebellion, a divine tipping point created for faith or failure. As they prepared to confront the inhabitants of Canaan, God's command resounded through the camp. "Be strong and very courageous, for the God who parted the waters was still God over every giant they would face." Each battle would be a moment to write testament to faith, obedience, and reliance on the Almighty. And in that sacred moment, as the promise unfurled before them, a whisper flickered in the winds of destiny. "What more shall I reveal, O Israel? How shall my glory be displayed in your obedience as you walk this path of faith. Thus, the air thickened with expectation, for beneath the surface of their struggle lay a grand tapestry of God's sovereign plan, stretching far beyond their comprehension, a legacy woven into the very fabric of creation. As they journeyed forth, the question echoed in their hearts: how shall we become the people of God, a reflection of His glory to all nations? The story of redemption awaited its unfolding, and the adventure had only just begun.